think I'm going to put a servo motor on this machine. So this is the back of the table, and right here is the clutch motor, the main part of it, and just up here you see those three shiny spots. Those are carriage bolt heads. So the motor is held to the table with three carriage bolts. We're going to need to take those carriage bolts off, and then there's some wiring associated with the control switch. So that'll come off, and the new control switch will come with the clutch motor. So I took that machine out, and now I'm going to put the table on the end to make this go a little bit easier. Right here on the arm, it's connected to the foot pedal. So you need to disconnect the foot pedal. So before I take the motor off, I want to take off all this wiring, which is attached with nailed on adapters. Whoever did this did a nice job. And then also that white cord is the light, and it's been wired directly to 110 inside this control box, which that's not necessarily standard. It was kind of the way they used to do it. This white cord comes from the 110 light that's mounted to the table. This is not uncommon, but you don't see it every time. Most of the time the light will be plugged into the motor. There's an outlet on the motor. I like this light and I want to keep it, so before I pull the motor off, I'm going to get into this box and disconnect the light. If you're not sure what you're doing, get an electrician. I'm going to retighten these up, and so once I pull this out now, this will all be back to original. Hey, did you see when I made this wrench roll out of an old military cot? If you'd like to see me make this, check out the link in the description. Now if you put this table upside down on its top, you won't have the issue I'm having where gravity's going to just want to pull this to the ground. But I can't put it on the top without removing everything, and because I'm lazy and a risk taker, I'm going to do it this way. Now I've got one bolt that's still hooked on. When I remove my last bolt, I'll be sure and support the motor so that it doesn't fall to the floor and break something. Mainly my foot. Aha! So here is the motor, and you can see that it has wires connected to it, and the control box, and here's the hardware. Extra brushes, new mounting hardware, and there's also these rubber vibration dampeners. This is a safety guard for the pulley, and this is the clutch motor. Comes with the switch. It's all wired. You don't have to do any wiring. So this wire to the motor, and then to the switch, and the other end, you plug into the wall. So when you turn it on, it goes from the wall through here into the motor. Here you can control your speed, so you can turn it down or turn it up. This right here is a way to adjust the tightness of the belt. So if your belt is too big or too small, you might be able to adjust this enough to take it up. If you just can't make the belt work even with this adjustment, you can always go to a parts store, take the belt you have, compare it to a new belt that's either long enough or short enough. That's where you get a new belt. Right here where the 3 bolts go. So let's put it in. So a bolt and a dampener. This dampener goes between the motor and the table. Side benefit, these hold the bolts in place while I'm messing around with the motor. These are a lot lighter. Big washer, the lock washer, and the nut. Alright, I've got this where it's not going anywhere, but before I tighten it down, I want to make sure that I get the pulley right in line with the machine. So I'll move on to the next stuff, and we'll tighten it down after we get it adjusted. One thing I like to do when I mount my switch is make sure that it is not sticking out proud of here. So that way if something hits here, it's not going to hit this switch. Now I got my wiring all out of the way, so when the belt comes through here, it's not going to get in the belt. So now I'm just going to convert the 110 light that was wired into the control box on the clutch motor. Just going to put a plug on it. Alright, so here's the foot pedal, and this is the control arm for the motor. Some servo motors will come with this rod. This one does not. I get this one because I've got plenty of rods. You can get one that has a rod included. It's about $8 more. So, you know, just judging by this, I'm probably going to want that pedal to be right around there. So I need about this much more length so I can make an adjustment right here. You can see in here, this is the pulley of the motor, and this pulley needs to be lined up with the pulley on the sewing machine, and that is going to be lined up with this slot in the table. And the mounting bracket has slots that will shift back and forth on these mounting bolts. So that's why I waited to tighten that up. So now I'll slide this motor out. I'll also put the machine in and then put a belt on and fine tune it, and then lock it down. Now you can see that I've got the pulley of the motor and the pulley of the machine lined up so that that belt travels through this slot without rubbing or touching anything. Now I can lock that down by tightening those nuts. So the belt tension needs to be correct. It doesn't have to be real tight. You certainly don't want it too tight. Then again, you don't want it too loose. If it's too loose, the belt might slip. And if it's too tight, you're going to wear out bushings and bearings. This motor can move in here, and you can see as it moves up, this belt gets a lot more loose. To tighten it, we want to move this down and tighten that belt up. So what I want to do is just move this nut down a little bit, and it doesn't need to be very tight, and I think that that is tight enough. So you can see I just barely finger tightened this, pushing it down against the belt over here. And now I'll tighten this up against that setting. Alright, that's locked in. All we need to do is plug it in, and I think we're ready to go.
Thanks a lot for watching my video. Please consider becoming a subscriber.